My uncle was barefoot in the parking lot, red-faced and roaring like the discount version of a tragedy. He had both hands on the hood of my car, as if he could physically stop me from leaving. It was 7:18 a.m. I was wearing a wrinkled blazer over a hoodie, and my iced coffee was sweating onto my fingers like it was nervous too. "You destroyed 3 generations!" he screamed. "You did this!" People love saying 3 generations when they want their bad choices to sound historic. My name is Elena Price. I am 23. I am my mother's only daughter, and 2 years ago my uncle Victor emptied our family trust. This morning he was outside my car, spitting anger at the windshield like it was a judge. "Victor, step away from my car," I said. He leaned toward my window. "Look at you," he hissed. "Miss better than everyone. Loyalty means nothing to you." Loyalty, I thought, is not a debit card. When my grandfather died, he left a trust. Not a fortune, but a safety net for education, emergencies, and keeping the old house of my grandfather in the family. My father died when I was 12. My mother, Nora, raised me on overtime shifts and stubborn hope. The trust was supposed to be the one soft landing life offered her. Victor was the trustee. My grandfather chose him because Victor was charming, and charm can look like stability from far away. At holidays, Victor brought pie and jokes. He hugged too hard. He told stories where he was always the hero. Even as a kid, I noticed the math never worked with him. He borrowed tools and returned excuses. He promised to pay people back and acted offended when they asked. 2 years after my grandfather passed, my mother asked Victor to release funds for my tuition. My grandfather had mentioned my education in writing. Victor listened, nodded, and delivered his favorite move, the pity smile. "Oh, Nora," he said, "the market is rough, funds are tied up, maybe next year." Next year is what people say when they mean never. I did not buy it. The attorney who helped set up the trust had explained the money was in a conservative account, safe, boring, designed to survive storms. That winter break, Victor left a cardboard box in my mother's garage. Paperwork, statements, neat stacks like he assumed nobody would bother reading. I opened it while my mother slept upstairs, exhausted from a double shift. Huge withdrawals, tens of thousands at a time. Notes like personal loan and investment. Balance, 0. My first reaction was not anger. It was clarity. Victor had not invested anything. He had drained the trust and tried to gaslight my mother with the word market. I drove to the house of Victor and slid the statements across his granite kitchen island. He barely looked. "Relax, Elena," he said. "I am moving money into a higher yield account. You do not understand finances." "I do understand theft," I said. He laughed, sharp and short. "Do you really want to accuse family after everything I have done for you? Done for me?" Victor never mailed a birthday card without asking for gas money. After that, he acted like nothing happened. He showed up at dinners, bragging about business trips and renovation projects, while my mother priced groceries like she was defusing a bomb. One night I admitted I might have to take a semester off to work more hours. Victor smirked. "Not my fault you chose champagne dreams on a beer budget." That was the sentence that turned my shock into resolve. Back in the parking lot, Victor kept screaming at my car. My phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "Stop digging. You will not like what you find about your grandfather." I stared at the screen. My coffee tipped and spilled across my lap. Victor smiled for half a second, like he knew exactly who sent it. Victor loved being admired and being underestimated. The problem was that I was raised by a woman who never had the luxury of underestimating reality. My mother, Nora, could tell the difference between a promise and a plan with one glance. She had just been too tired to look at her own brother like a stranger. I went into audit mode. I scanned every statement from the box in the garage and saved it in 3 places. I photographed the trust summary. I highlighted every withdrawal. Then I called the attorney who handled my grandfather's estate years earlier. Attorney James Larkin read the paperwork in silence, and the lines around his mouth hardened. "This is breach of fiduciary duty," he said. "He owes an accounting, and if the money is gone, he owes repayment." Next, I called my friend Paige, who worked at the county records office. Paige liked to joke that her job was reading people's lives through deeds and liens. I asked her one question: "Has Victor bought anything expensive lately?" Paige did not pause. "A cabin near Lake Harrow. Cash purchase last spring. He refinanced his main house twice this year, and he is behind on property taxes." Late taxes are not a mistake. Late taxes are a warning light. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my mother and placed the statements in front of her like a diagnosis. Nora went still, the way a nurse goes still when a monitor beeps wrong. "He told me it was tied up," she whispered. "I know," I said. "And now we untie it." Larkin helped us file a petition in probate court to remove Victor as trustee. We requested a formal accounting, repayment with interest, and an emergency restriction on selling assets. Victor called my mother the day he was served. He did not call me. "Nora," he wailed, "how could you let Elena do this? This is going to ruin me." My mother put the call on speaker. "You ruined yourself," she said. "Give the money back." Victor changed from wounded to vicious in one breath. "Fine. If you want war, you will get it. Tell your daughter to stop pretending she is smarter than me." That night I got another message from an unknown number. "Back off. Court gets ugly." I forwarded it to Larkin. His reply was one sentence: "Save everything." At the first hearing, Victor arrived in a navy suit and a grin that belonged on a billboard. In court, he claimed he temporarily borrowed the funds during a rough patch and always intended to repay. Larkin placed the cabin deed on the table. "Cash purchase," he said. "Same month as the largest trust withdrawal." Victor's smile flickered. The judge ordered a full accounting and granted a temporary restriction on major transfers. It was not a final win, but it was the first time someone with authority looked at Victor and did not fold. Outside the courthouse, Victor finally spoke to me directly. "You think you are clever, Elena," he said. "You have no idea what you are digging up." "Then tell me," I said. He leaned closer, voice low and pleased. "Your grandfather did not build that trust with clean money. Ask about the public contracts from the 90s. Ask why the old company shut down. If you keep pushing, you will drag your mother into it too." 2 days later, a white envelope with a federal return address arrived in my mother's mailbox. Inside was a letter requesting financial records related to my grandfather's construction business, covering 2 decades. My mother read it twice, hands shaking. "Elena," she said, "what did you do?" The letter looked harmless, just paper and ink, but it carried the weight of a wrecking ball. It requested records tied to my grandfather's old construction business, covering 2 decades. My mother sat at the table with the envelope open, staring as if the words might rearrange themselves into something gentler. "He said Grandpa was dirty," she whispered. What if he was right? Victor had always been good at taking a real worry and turning it into a weapon. If my grandfather had made mistakes, Victor would use them like armor. If my mother panicked, Victor would call it proof. "We get help," I said. "We answer with facts." That afternoon we hired a tax attorney named Lila Grant. Lila was short, sharp, and allergic to drama. "You respond to requests," she told my mother. "You do not respond to threats. We gather everything and we keep it organized." For the next month, the old house of my grandfather became a warehouse of paperwork, receipts in shoeboxes, contracts in dusty folders, invoices with dates that made my stomach twist. I spent weekends sorting while my mother made coffee like it was medication. 2 weeks into the audit, Victor filed a countersuit. His claim was simple and poisonous. The trust should be invalidated because it was funded with illegal money, and therefore he should not have to repay what he stole. Larkin called me as soon as he saw it. "He is trying to burn everything down, Elena," he said. "It is a tantrum with legal stationery." The probate case moved forward anyway. Victor produced an accounting that did not match the bank records. He labeled withdrawals as family expenses, while the timeline showed a cash cabin purchase and a new truck. He claimed reimbursements with no receipts. At the next hearing, the judge looked at Victor like a toddler arguing that cookies are a food group. The court removed Victor as trustee. An independent trustee was appointed. The court ordered Victor to repay the trust with interest. Then came the part that turned Victor's face gray. A lien was placed on the house of Victor to secure the judgment. Outside the courthouse, Victor tried to corner my mother with fake tenderness. "Nora," he said, "we can fix this. Tell Elena to stop." My mother did not flinch. "You already talked," she said. "With our money." Victor turned to me, eyes hard. "Wait until the auditors finish. When they come for your mother, remember who started this?" I kept my voice steady. "You started this when you stole from your sister." A month later, the independent trustee sent an update. The trust was recovering, slowly, through court-controlled repayments and frozen assets. Meanwhile, the audit got uglier. Lila negotiated like a surgeon. She separated my mother from my grandfather's business decisions, produced documentation, and kept the investigators focused on facts instead of Victor's gossip. The price of the settlement was not small, but it was survivable. My mother signed with shaking hands and did not say a word. 2 weeks after that, a foreclosure notice appeared on the door of the house of Victor. The lien and the missed taxes had stacked into a wall he could not climb. Victor called me that night, voice vibrating with rage. "You are taking my house, Elena." "No," I said. "The court is collecting what you stole." His breathing rasped through the phone. "If I go down, I will take you all with me." I hung up and forwarded the voicemail to Larkin and Lila. Then I looked at my mother. Her eyes were tired, but there was something new in them. Not fear, focus. Because when someone threatens to take you down with them, the only winning move is to make sure they go down alone. The foreclosure sign went up on a Tuesday, the kind of gray day that makes everything look like unfinished business. I drove past the house of Victor and saw the bright paper stapled to the door. Victor had always acted like the world owed him applause. Now the world offered him a notice and a deadline. My mother stared at the photo I texted her and exhaled like she had been holding her breath for 2 years. "I feel awful," she said. "You feel human," I answered. "Feeling relief does not make you cruel." 2 weeks later, a moving truck idled in Victor's driveway. He barked orders at the movers like he was still in charge. When he spotted my car across the street, he stormed toward it, face red and eyes wet. "Hope you are proud," he shouted. "You destroyed the family." I cracked the window an inch. "You destroyed the family when you stole from it," I said. "I just filed the paperwork." He slammed his palm against the glass and kept shouting until I drove away. That night he started calling, then texting, then calling again. When that did not work, he chose the oldest intimidation tactic in the world: show up at a woman's door and make it scary. At 11:07 p.m., Victor pounded on my mother's front door, shouting that we owed him mercy. My mother called me from the upstairs hallway, whispering like she was 12 again. I told her to lock herself in her bedroom and call the police. Then I drove over with my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my keys. By the time I arrived, 2 officers were on the porch. Victor was swaying, smelling of cinnamon liquor. They arrested him for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Larkin pushed for a no-contact order the next morning, and the judge granted it without hesitation. Victor responded by performing victimhood online. He posted a video from a motel room, calling my mother ungrateful and me vindictive. He also made the mistake of naming the trust on camera. Larkin watched the clip and smiled. "He just gave us evidence," he said. While Victor spiraled, his own past started talking. A woman named Dana, Victor's ex-wife, messaged me through a mutual contact. "I am sorry," she wrote. "He hides things in a storage unit on Wren Street. Collectibles, cash purchases." I showed the message to Larkin. His eyes sharpened. "If those items were bought with trust withdrawals, We can seize them, he said. My mother was exhausted by then. The audit settlement had drained part of her savings and her patience. Some nights she stared at the wall and did not blink for a full minute. I went to therapy because my anger kept waking me up at 3 a.m., like an alarm I could not turn off. Dr. Marisol Reyes listened, then said one sentence that rearranged my brain. You are not angry because you lost money. You are angry because someone tried to rewrite your reality and call it love. A week later, Larkin filed an emergency motion to freeze Victor's remaining assets, including the storage unit. The judge granted it and scheduled an opening under court supervision. Victor found out and violated the no-contact order immediately. He sent my mother a letter through a third party, all caps and pure poison. If you open that unit, I will tell them everything about Harold. You should have let me keep the money. My mother read it, then tore it in half with a calm that scared me. Open it, she said. On the morning of the storage unit hearing, I sat in the courthouse hallway beside Dana. She looked tired, but steady. He always thought he was smarter than paper, she said. He forgot paper remembers. When the bailiff called our case, Victor walked in wearing his navy suit again. The grin was gone. He looked at me like I had invented consequences. The storage unit on Wren Street sat at the back of the facility like a secret Victor had been paying rent to keep. Court staff unlocked it while a deputy watched Victor, who stood rigid in his suit, jaw clenched tight. When the rolling door lifted, the air smelled like dust and stale cologne. Inside were shelves packed with bins and bubble wrap, all labeled in neat black marker. Rare coins in velvet cases, vintage guitars in hard shells, boxed watches, signed sports memorabilia. It looked like a museum of midlife crisis purchases. Larkin photographed everything and compared item receipts to the trust withdrawal dates. The overlap was blunt. Cash withdrawals one day, storage unit payments the next, luxury purchases right after. Dana, Victor's ex-wife, let out a bitter laugh. He told me we could not afford new tires, she murmured. Victor snapped. This is mine. You cannot do this. The deputy cleared his throat. The judge already did, sir. At the follow-up hearing, the court authorized liquidation of the contents to satisfy part of the judgment. Victor tried to argue the items were gifts or investments. The judge asked for proof. Victor offered feelings. Feelings lost. The auction proceeds were not enough to replace what he stole, but it was enough to hurt. The first payment hit the trust account the next morning, and my mother stared at the deposit notice like it was a sunrise. Victor responded by filing for bankruptcy, confident he could erase the debt and rebrand himself as a victim of cruel women and paperwork. Larkin objected. The bankruptcy judge agreed that a debt tied to breach of fiduciary duty does not vanish because someone signs a sad form. Victor's debt survived. Victor violated the no-contact order again anyway, sending letters to my mother's workplace. The police arrested him at his new job, a used car dealership where he tried to sell reliability as if it was a feature he understood. The judge added a short jail sentence for repeated violations. While Victor kept spiraling, someone else quietly reached for a life raft. Mason, Victor's 17-year-old son, emailed me from his school account. I am sorry about my dad, he wrote. Can you help me with college applications? We met at the library. We wrote essays. We edited sentences until they sounded like truth. A month later, Mason earned a scholarship to a state university. My mother hugged him like he belonged with us, not with Victor's chaos. The trust will never be what my grandfather intended. The audit settlement and the stolen years took their cuts. But the trust is managed by an independent trustee now, and Victor no longer touches it. Wage garnishment started after bankruptcy failed, small payments that arrived like slow rain. Not enough to forget, but enough to prove the system remembered. My mother changed too. She opened a new savings account in her own name and started reading every line of every document. She joined a weekend pottery class and came home smelling like clay and quiet victory. One night she said, almost surprised, I forgot what peace felt like. I finished my degree and accepted a job in forensic accounting. I like numbers because they do not flirt and they do not gaslight. They just add up or they do not. 2 months after my first day, I saw Victor again outside a grocery store. He started toward my car, mouth already forming another speech about ruined generations. I held up my phone and said, "I will call the police." For once, he stopped. Victor once told me I had champagne dreams on a beer budget. He was right about one thing. I did have dreams. I just stopped letting him drink them.